Hello and welcome to Pawapod. I'm your host for today, Angeline Wairimo, and today's series is on 16 days of activism. We are focusing particularly on the women human rights defenders there. And today's episode, we have Rachael Mwikali in the house. Karibu sana, Rachael.
Asante, Angie. Yeah. And thank you for inviting me.
Welcome. As I was telling you behind the cameras, mi uko na tu kwa TV. And so today I'm privileged to meet you in person. And so as we start off, who is Rachael Mwikali?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So my name is Rachael Mwikali. I have so many titles, but I'm a grassroots human rights defender and a woman human rights defender, and also a Pan African Feminist. I work with a social movement called Coalition for Grassroots Human Rights Defender, and many people know us as Pussy Power. It's a social movement.
Very interesting name.
Yeah, Pussy Power. And yeah, Pussy Power, it brings conversation.
Yeah.
And it's a social movement of grassroots activists, feminists, and community organizers working in different informal settlements and rural area. But our main also way of organizing is through intersectionality organizing and feminist leadership. The reason why we say intersectionality is because each issues depend on another issue. You can't say you are dealing with human rights issue on a single issue. And I love the way also you're organizing and together with Power, this 16 days of activism with the focus of women human rights defender, because women human rights defender are also not homogeneous. That's why intersectionality is important.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. As you've mentioned, the reason why we are actually dealing with the women human rights defenders because it's one of the objectives under the UN this year's objective, in which they want to come up with ways on how we can strengthen the protection mechanism of people like you who have given their lives to defend the people, especially those that are facing violence, especially women and girls. And so what keeps you motivated in your work?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would say also like one of the things also that as a woman human rights defender, I like the way also you're breaking in terms of also the work we do that puts us a lot online in most of the time. And a lot of our security, it's a big issue. And also dealing in a space also, as much as we are dealing in human rights space, is also patriarchal space. That the issues of women human rights defender are not seen as an issue. So when you ask me what motivates me, it's the way I usually say is from a personal conviction and passion. Like every day I have to resist a lot of things. Being a young woman, poor young woman living in slums, or being a girl who's working on human rights issues and radical issues such as sexual reproductive health and rights, and even access to abortion. And you find some of these issues when you're advocating for, and then you see someone getting help and support and feeling dignified, it motivates you. Because also we are coming from a community that most of our time, even in Kenya, as much as we have a progressive constitution, we're never dignified as human beings. Yeah. But also one thing I can say is that also having a strong support system of friends who love me in my own troublesome ways, in my own good ways, it keeps me going. Because there are levels, to be honest, you feel things are tough. Yeah. Like, to be honest, even with this regime in Kenya, already I'm like, I'm very hopeful, but at the same time, I'm very disappointed because the current president has been anti-gender. Like his history and this regime history, it has been about anti-gender, anti-choice, and anti-LGBTQ, and anti-human rights. Because if you can see, it was not pro-constitution. And if you're not pro-constitution, not anti-gender, and now you're talking about women human rights defenders, and you're talking about women human rights defenders, also let's say, working on LGBTQ issue and abortion issue like myself. So it means my safety and security still, and many of like myself who are working on these issues of human rights, it's challenging, but we can't give up. We have to keep on organizing more strategically and change our tactic, but also ensure that there's collective solidarity amongst ourselves and not work alone.
Yeah. So you've mentioned that the protection bit of women human rights defenders is a bit lacking, but in actual sense, are there any existing mechanisms?
Yeah, I would say there are organizations that work. Let's say there's Defenders Coalition, there's also Protection International, there's also Amnesty, and there's also the Women Human Rights Defenders Hub, and there's also like ourselves, like our network, like Coalition for Grassroots Human Rights Defender. ours is not like I'll say our protection even as pussy power is the fact that we are together. So we spread the risk among us ourselves. But my issue around the protection mechanism is that it's also the way it's designed does not respond to women issues, let me say in a feminist perspective. Because you find, especially for comrades also, like when you're having even children and you have to move out, you have to be taken away. You see, you're coming with children, not like men. When they are moving, they go alone. So most of the time, even me personally, being someone that I've been under risk, not once, not twice, and even going to exile, even outside of this country, you find sometimes as a woman, you have a lot to lose. It's the same way when you're dealing with GBV cases and a woman has kids. There's usually this kind of investment of children coming along and family, external family and community. So you find that even if mechanisms are there, they need to be pushed, they need to be revamped, they need to be reimagined, rethink, or not can respond. Let's say a good example. And also, like, if you're a woman and then you're going under protection and being rescued, you need also menstrual hygiene products. Is there like a care package for such menstrual hygiene product? Is there a care package of also ensuring that your needs are catered for as a woman? So I think these are the things that needs to be rethinked. And I'm happy, like, in the last, I will say 2 years, I've been involved some work with different partners like Danish Institute for Human Rights, Women Human Rights Defenders, on seeing on how do we come with strategies that can ensure that the voice of women human rights defenders, and also from the grassroots perspective, because also we have women human rights defenders who are working, let's say, 8 to 5 in mainstream organization. We have grassroots activists, women human rights defenders who are working from ground.
Actually,
like
that
myself.
was my next question.
Yeah, from ground who are not like paid 8 to 5. They're doing it on daily basis. No holiday. Though also this is the other thing also about mental well-being we need to talk and about self-care. What does it mean for grassroots? Because our community expects you work like an ambulance. You're 8 to 5. And also because of the issues we see, we go through and live in the same community, there's so much expectation. So I still feel from my point, and to be fair, I'll not say things are not done, but things need to be done better and being rethinked in a more effective way to support the women human defender, because we exist in a space that is male-dominated.
How so?
Yeah, even activism space is male-dominated, and I, with all the due respect of also the comrades who also doing a lot of work, but you find the space is not also inclusive of also women human rights defenders, especially the young one. And you realize also there's so much that we are dealing with that the space also need to rethink on how we make it very inclusive. How do we make it collectively? And I'm not saying I'm out, but I'm in. How do we ensure that we make it inclusive and more intersectional, that we protect each other? And when I mean protection, for me, the way I was saying in terms of collective protection is ensuring that if you're at risk, Angela, we're able to come through for you and your family. If you look in the past, in 90s, the way the protection was also communal. If you're at risk, in fact, even at that time when I talk with comrades is when also your family, if they're not eating meat, they'll eat meat because the movement is taking care of them, of your family and the needs. But now, but also I understand there are a lot of pressures. Things are evolving. Activism is evolving. But also I do give a lot of respect to any woman human rights defender who stand up to fight, because also our families, they don't like what we do, unfortunately. And fortunately, they like what we do and they see us on TV. That's what they say. See my daughter, see my friends, see my family member.
Also, for you mentioned you have networks, you have friends who support you through your work. But now I'm thinking there's a lady who is in the informal sector. They don't have these networks, So how can we make sure that at the end of the day, such a woman is also protected and their needs are also catered for?
That's very interesting.
Are you doing anything at your level also to impact others that you work with, or especially those that are not able to reach to get what you can access yourself as one of them?
So one of the things I recognize, as much as they are friends, also friendship in the movement is a build-up thing. Friendship is not like a one-day thing. Like even the friends I have, I've built them for many more than 10 years. Some have dropped, some have maintained, depending on also the risk that comes also being my friend. And even within the network, it's about also how consistent you are. If you're consistent in the movement, and if you're also authentic, at the same time, the way you're saying, it comes also with a point of privilege. Privilege to the manner that a friend knows a friend, and then they make you introduce. one thing that I've done being also a victim of not having access, because people will think, oh, we are omoka, sijaomoka, lakini omoka, sijaomoka bado ndaomoka. Because also this is the thing also with my activism life. Now, like it has been a journey of also myself critiquing myself and doing reflections. What have I been doing better or not in a better way that I need to correct, I need to change. So one of the things I realized also, systems were not working for me because of my radicalness, which I don't apologize. I'm unapologetic. And that's also being real also has made me keep some friends that are authentic with me. And one of the things that we do, like one of the programs we run also as Coalition for Grassroots Human Rights Defender, is that also mentoring that young woman human rights defender, but with a feminist perspective. Because not all also women human rights defender are feminists. But
why the emphasis on the feminism bit of it?
The reason why I say feminism is also trying to remove this mind certain rights are more important than the others. Because all of us are socialized in a patriarchal way. And if you want to bring all of us also women together, we are not homogeneous. We need to understand there are sex worker women human rights defenders, there are indigenous women human rights defenders, there are governance women human rights defenders, there are sexual reproductive health and rights women human rights defenders, there are LGBTQ, lesbian women human rights defenders. You get, depending on how the work you do, you see. So you find that even for us creating even like, let's say, the way we do Pussy Power Festival, and even this year, is about when you ask me about how do we create linkages even during 16 days of activism and every day. Because for us, 16 days of activism is on a daily basis. And that's why if you see us, we have shifted the narrative. Every 16 days of activism, when you're doing Pussy Power Festival, we bring a different theme that people will think we'll talk about violence. We talk about violence, but also celebrating the work we do and seeing what can we do effectively to make our work thrive and bring others. So we bring other activists who are working, let's say, in different spaces. We bring that intersection of bridging the gaps. We don't want to say these are Mababi, these are grassroots. We know mini grassroots, uni babi. How do we come together and ensure that we support each other? What are the skills do we need to learn and to be improved that we know that within our own circle and our own networks and within our own movement that we don't need to ask outside, but get it inside the movement and learn from each other.
So it's like a training session for the ladies?
Not like a train. We have had trainings and we have training, but we have like a skill share session, like where you come and transfer. Like if you're good, let's say in writing CV, me, I'm good in business. I teach you business, you teach me how to write CV.
Yeah.
If I'm good in organizing and you are good in facilitating, let's learn from each other.
Yeah.
So at least you're able to learn ways of organizing. But also the other thing that we have been managed to do is build networks outside Kenya with other movements. Let's say movements in the US, movements in South Africa, movements in, let's say, Congo, like getting to understand who are other people doing similar work as us. How do we build our energies together? And you could see through this, even this year, when we had the very problematic reproductive health policy, 2022-2032, through the Ministry of Health, Kenyans and many women were not involved. And most of us women, human rights defenders and feminists, were able to tell the ministry, we can't allow you coming up with a policy about our sexual reproductive health and rights and you do not involve us. So we did a protest to stop. And this protest also, you could see, we brought different themes and the categories and constituency of women human rights defenders. There were others working on HIV movement. There were others working on land movement. But we were like, these are issues about our bodies. So we can't allow, like we are in a war with the way people say there's war between Russia and Ukraine, but as we are in a war with governments that are not respecting us. We're in a war with Kenyan government that is not respecting our issues. So what we did when you ask about even how we do work is also we took the documents, we sat down all of us, more than 80 women human rights defenders, who were like 120 in Mathare, and then we divided ourselves. You take this part, as we take this part. Let's read and break it down the way we understand Kivyetu with the simple English. If Kizungu ni ngumu, we bring another one. Help us to understand this Kizungu because it's hard. We had some of our partners like within the space that were able to help us even understand how to break the legal language. Because also legal language, that's where they chase us. So we were able to understand how do you break it. But all in all is about also having also intergenerational learning. Our space is not only certain age. We are youthful, but we have also a constituency of people that are not youthful, that also we learn from them and they learn from us. So there's that intergenerational learning amongst ourselves as women, human rights defenders.
Okay, you've mentioned, you've talked a lot about the different challenges that you face, but do you think there's a time that will come that you don't have to fight for such issues? It will just be not easy per se, but it will be like, you see, you won't have to struggle to make some of these things to be understood by the government, by the like just to do away with whatever that is a challenge to you.
I think it depends. When you say about challenge, there are different layers of challenges. And for these different layers, it's also from community level and government. If the government, even me, I'll wish oppression to stop so that also I live my own life. Like, because all my time and many of our time as women human rights defender, we are resisting, fighting. We need also a time to set back and say, but there we have fought for this thing. We can take a break and the rest can continue. But taking a break does not mean you're going to sabbatical or you're taking a break. Like, as in, because your activism is passion. In activism, there's no retirement. But the point that you'll know the others continuing with the job. And that's why it comes also to building a movement that we know is not about Rachel the person, but a movement that as many people, even if when you're not doing things, people are able to do things. But also the other thing that I'd like to say is that also it needs to come a lot of investment. And that's why even within our own campaign, if you see even some of our merchandise as Coalition for Grassroots Human Rights Defender, we usually have messages, even on our social medias, like invest on grassroots women human rights defender. We are doing a lot of work. And then also shifting the narrative, the thing we're saying, people, funders, governments, community should stop romanticizing poverty in women human rights defenders' life. I know it's an all general of activism, but also mostly the way we have seen even poverty being gendered. It's usually also now with the community societal norms that are very patriarchal. It makes even as a woman human rights defender, you are always put constant. And especially this also comes for accountability of male comrades. When even as a woman human rights defender want to continue their private life and continue doing the work, there's usually that public sphere that says, why are you doing this? And why, let me give an example. Let me give a good example. Something that really annoys me most of the time is that, let's say the space, the communities will expect a male activist to have a partner, but they don't expect you as a woman human rights defender. When you start having to build your own personal life, someone will start saying, nona likatiwa kasau struggle. But the men, their life is continuing and building their families.
Are those women that are saying that or not? Society in general?
Society and also mostly male comrades, And I'm not bashing them, but this is a conversation we need to have, that all of us, we are lovers of love, and we deserve to be loved and to
we are human.
We are human beings. It's also a matter of giving someone a space also to be able to know that also they deserve the best. Their self-well-being is important. They deserve to be listened, to be loved, to be cared for. And for me, this is a message for women human rights defenders, as I know time is not on our side, that never feel apologetic about your worth. And during these 16 days of activism, it also lets rethink, because I know also there are a lot of also women human rights defenders experience violence in different ways. Like even some online, offline, like, we should continue doing the work but support each other. But also if you feel you need to rest, take a break. It's fine. I know even my friends will be like, she's giving this advice and she's the worst in terms of taking a break. But there are levels that if you need to take a break, take a break. Also build yourself in terms of getting new skills, in terms of getting new knowledge, ideas. But also if you get opportunity of also doing other things in terms of you continue doing human rights work and doing your own personal stuff, don't forget to do it. Because I think that's why also the confusion things also for me, like we do activism 24/7 and it's not a paid activism. By the time you realize you're like, by the way, I'm 30. Na sina kitu yoyote. Sina hata medical, and people also don't want to employ you, unfortunately, because of your activism.
Associate with you,
unfortunately. So the thing is that also for mainstream organization to rethink on also to design the work, even the activism organization, employ women human rights defenders as your staff. Because when you come to the ground, we're the ones who do the work. In the movements, what we do also is that we ensure that even if we need that professionalism skill, mixed professionalism and lived experience. Lived experience is the most also important, as much as we need both. So combine both for it to be able to be a learning process for both professionals and activists from a lived experience.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rachel. And I tend to think we'll need more time to do this. It's a large topic and we cannot exhaust it.
I'm like, it's too short.
The time that we have, we are going to create time for this. But thank you so much for coming in, for standing in for women human rights defenders, for those that are in the grassroots, in the informal sectors. And as you've heard, as you do this, don't forget yourself. We also need so much support in what Rachel and her colleagues are doing. So let's all stand against violence against women and girls,
and also against women human rights defenders. We stand against violence targeting women human rights defenders.
Yeah. Thank you so much, our audience. Please listen in to our podcast at Anchor and also check our rest of our social media platforms. I've been your host for today, Angeline Gitonga. Bye.